I want to talk about the GM survey
Sorry.
that came out in the last week. No, you're totally good. I want to talk about the GM survey in the last week. So there's 3 questions that Drew, you wanted to really kind of touch on and have a discussion about. The first one in the GM survey was, if you're going to be starting a franchise today and could sign
Let's do
any
this one
player
last.
in the NBA, this one last. Okay, you want to do the acquisition first or the head coach? The acquisition.
Whichever one you want. Let's just do the other one last.
Okay. Which one player acquisition will make the biggest impact? Paul George was 1 with 60%. Mikal Bridges and Karl Anthony Towns were tied at 2. Next was Alex Caruso. And then also receiving votes is DeMar DeRozan, Isaiah Hartenstein as well.
Yeah, DeMar, baby.
So you agree with that one with Paul being number 1 for the biggest impact?
No. I mean, when was the last time Chris Paul? When was the last Paul George? When was the last time Paul George? Hey, Chris Paul's going to be an assassin for the Spurs this year. I'm telling you what, he's going to have so many lobs. I actually love that. But moving past him, because we're not talking about Chris Paul. When was the last time Paul George was a game changer?
When's the last time you were fearful of Paul George?
When he played for the Pacers.
Yeah. I mean, he was pretty good at OKC, man. He was like 3rd MVP voting.
That's true. He was good there. But I'm just like, it's like, oh, the Nuggets got Russell Westbrook. Who cares? Like these guys get to this point in their career, and it's just like a tired old retread. Like I'm supposed to look at the Boston Celtics roster. I'm supposed to look at the New York Knicks roster and what they did last year, and I'm supposed to be worried about Paul George. No. How many games is he going to play, Jacob? How many games is he going to play? 60?
I was going to say 63, 64. Yep, that was my ballpark.
How many games is his running mate going to play?
Maybe the same amount if he's lucky. 70.
And hopefully they play the same 70. Hopefully they play the same games and they don't each, they miss like 35 games not playing together because of injuries. Like I get it. He signed for a lot of money. It was the big offseason acquisition. I just don't know. Now I can't tell you what moves the needle more. If you look at where they fell last year in the standings and where I expect them to fall this year in the standings, and can that team beat the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals? I don't think so.
Yeah. No, if you were going to choose a guy on this list or not on this list, then who was going to make the biggest impact? Who was it going to be? Because I have one in mind. It's on this list. I think will make a bigger impact than Paul George, at least.
I'm a super homer, so I won't even answer this question.
I think Cat. I think Cat would probably be the biggest impact out of all these guys sitting here.
I'm surprised it didn't get more votes due to recency bias, but I just are the GMs really filling this out, or is it like some assistant GM? Because when it comes to the last question we're going to cover, if the GMs all filled this out, then 30% of the GMs in the NBA are morons and should be fired tomorrow. If I was the owner and I found out that a GM didn't vote for this guy to start the franchise with, I'd fire him. Are you stupid? Are you stupid? That's what I would ask. So we'll save that rant. That rant's coming. But yeah, I don't know. I'm going to say DeMar because the Kings didn't make the playoffs last year, and I think that they're going to compete for the 4th and 5th seed this year. And it's going to be the only thing that has stopped the Kings is because they get bogged down late in the 4th quarter because everybody knows that Domantas Sabonis ain't worth a shit in the 4th. Sorry, Kings fans, don't hate me. He doesn't do anything in the 4th quarter scoring. He doesn't score in clutch points. Malik Monk has these games where he goes for 40 and then he goes for 2. Kevin Huerter can't make a bucket to save his life. Keegan Murray is completely worn out by the 4th quarter because he's running around guarding the best offensive player on the other team. So what do? We go and sign the number 1 4th quarter scorer outside of De'Aaron Fox in the league. Who are you going to guard with 3 minutes left? DeMar or De'Aaron? DeMar or De'Aaron? Plus, we got the Kendrick Lamar juju because we signed DeMar DeRozan. So it's all lining up, man. We're gonna win a playoff series this year, and I'm gonna throw a fucking parade.
All right, you're gonna just by yourself?
Yes.
I'm sure there's lots of other people who will join you in on that one.
I'm gonna wear my DeMarcus Cousins jersey.
Oh my gosh. So like I already said, I think that Cat is probably the biggest one for me on this list, at least. I think especially you look at what they had last year and Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein, and being able to get that additional spacer in there, I think is huge for this team. The team composition right now for the Knicks is, really good. I mean, you have Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, and Karl-Anthony Towns. You got a lot of good defense and offensive creation on that team. Bringing in Cat with the perimeter shooting along with Brunson, I'm excited to see how the pick and roll or the pick and pop is gonna look with those two guys there, because the pick and pop that wasn't there for the Knicks last year with the type of personnel that they had. This year it is, so it's gonna be kind of exciting to see how the Knicks actually perform. Hopefully they just don't perform well against Boston or any series against Boston, but personally I think it's probably Cat. I think Cat's probably the biggest acquisition there, at least for impact that he's going to make on his team immediately. Mikal up there being tied with him. I like Mikal. He's cool. I think what the biggest thing that he brings to this team is the defensive side of everything. And you already have an elite level defender in OG Anunoby out there as well. So the defense looks really good, and you have a lot of offensive creation with Brunson and Cat sitting over there too. And then don't discount what Josh Hart can do, just randomly exploding for the night. Looking at the next question, also, which head coach runs? Good.
The head coach has history with Karl-Anthony Towns. And a lot of people would tell you that he had bad history with him, that he didn't like him. Well, you don't go and make this trade if he doesn't sign off on it. And I think OG is a huge piece on that team, even bigger than Cat, on what they're going to do this year. So we'll see. I'm hella excited for the New York Knicks. I don't know why. I shouldn't be rooting for any New York team, but I'm excited.
It's a rarity. The next question on the GM survey is, which head coach runs the best offense? Number one is Rick Carlisle for the Indiana Pacers at 47%, and then Joe Mazzulla for Boston, Chris Finch for Minnesota, Steve Kerr, fourth place for Golden State, and then also receiving votes, Mark Dagnew. It's French. I always forget how to say it. For OKC, Michael Malone, Nick Nurse, Eric Spoelstra. How do you feel about this one? Do you think this one's kind of the correct one? I know you pointed this one out, which was kind of a surprise. Why did you want to point this out specifically?
Because I just don't know how much credit I give to your offense when it requires you to be a bottom 3 defensive team in the NBA. Because you can't win consistently that way.
For Rick Carlisle.
Yeah.
My team being Boston, I'm not sure how much I like Boston being second. You've seen the type of offense that Boston runs, and it's a lot of iso ball, and there's not really a lot of particular offense being ran there. I don't mind Chris Finch being up there in third. I don't mind that much, but some of the defensive adjustments on that side is rough, but the offense is a little bit different. But if we're talking about defense, I don't think Chris Finch deserves to be up there because of the defensive adjustments, especially against the Mavericks, looked piss poor and looked awful because it was just non-existent. Who do you think deserves that number 1 spot?
I don't hate the picks. I was just surprised by the percentage for Rick Carlisle. I was just like, really? Like, when I think about the best offenses in the NBA, I'm not exactly sure I just settle on the Pacers because they're just so god-awful defensively.
Yeah, no, they're one of the worst defensive teams in the league. And, I mean, you don't want to give it credit because of the defense. I guess I get that, I didn't really mind the Indiana thing when I first was reading through it, when I was thinking about it, but now you bringing up how many votes do you get if you're bad on the other side, or just not just bad, just god awful on the other side. It's a good point to make. I'm not mad at you for making the at least pointing it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that again, it comes back to being a Kings fan. We had the best offense in NBA history 2 years ago by NBA rating, and we were god awful defensively because of it, because of the way we ran our offense, and we didn't win that many games. You have to be a good defensive team. I'm just surprised at the recognition from the general managers when they are so bad defensively because of the way they ran their offense. It just surprised me. You know, like Oklahoma City, their offense, I expect, is going to be really, really good this year because their defense is going to be so freaking good. They could be historically good. Like they had one of the best defenses in the league last year. And then what do? They go and get Caruso. Like that's just, and they get rid of Josh Giddey, who was the biggest liability on their team defensively. I don't know. Defense leads to offense. I'm coaching in the 1970s, apparently, when it comes to the NBA stuff. But everybody's like far and away voting for Rick Carlisle. And it was curious to me.
When it comes to the Thunder too, and it's funny because they had Chet over there and you would think that they wouldn't be one of the worst rim protection teams in the league, but Isaiah Hartenstein brings that with them. And, so another addition on that defensive side, even with him, coming off of the bench is something that is crucial and it is big. And I don't mean like worse rim protection overall. It mainly came from the bench play was the biggest thing for the team. But again, bringing in Hartenstein, again, out for 5 to 6 weeks, but he is going to make an impact on this team one way or another sometime in the middle of this season.
Can you imagine them deploying Caruso and Lou Dort on the wing with Holmgren and Hartenstein, and just like, are they going to hold the team to less than 80 points this year? Will that happen?
Lou is so nasty.
I bet there's a prop bet for that.
Yeah. Lou is nasty, dude. He's a vicious defender. Alex is clean, but he's just so good. It just keeps everything. Alex Caruso is like more frustrating because it's like I'm trying everything I can, and this dude is just staying in front of me, and there's nothing I can fucking do about it. So, and I wonder, like this more defense is going. God, now I sound like you. The more defense is going to like bring more offense for Shea specifically. Like allowing Shea to take a little bit of a step back defensively is going to allow him to do more offensively and create, which he's already second favorite in MVP odds right now. I know for the GM survey, he was number one if they were going to guess on who the MVP was going to be this year. And I'd probably take that bet as well. That's who they're going to be. And I think Shea's probably has a very high chance to wrap up an MVP this year. Which Mavs fans don't like because they want to cry about Luka constantly. But I just
who should be pissed is Clippers fans.
Why?
Wasn't he a Clipper?
Yeah, Shea. Yeah.
Yep. How'd that work out?
Worked out great, dude. Kawhi was like, "Hey, I want Paul George on the team," and they're like, "Oh yeah, let's go ahead and trade this guy away. Let's get Paul George." And that other guy is now an MVP candidate and getting MVP votes. Oh, by the way, they were the number 1 seed in the West. Oh, by the way, Paul George is already gone. Oh, by the way, Kawhi's not even going to play for the whole year.
Yeah, and by the way, that dude led the team in steals last year, led the league in steals last year. Could you imagine that combined with Kawhi and the way he used to play defense back when he gave a fuck? That would have been deadly.
It's a long time ago.
But no, James Harden. Get James Harden. Get Russell Westbrook.
Oh yeah, dude. We're gonna talk about that later.
You got to build that arena out there in LA. You got to build that arena.
Sell tickets, dude. Hey, dude. All it is, it's Mark Davis and the Raiders building their stadium out in Las Vegas. You're just trying to sell tickets. It might not be your fans.
Yeah, at least that shit gets filled up. There's the Raiders stadium is sold out every weekend.
That's true. Absolutely. Last question is, and here's your rant. If you were starting a franchise today and could sign any NBA player, who would it be? Number 1, Victor Wembanyama with a 77% vote. Shea at 10. And Jokic also at 10, Luka at 3%, which basically means 1 GM voted for Luka. Go ahead.
Yeah. Who the fuck is voting for Jokic on this? Jokic he's older.
Yep.
He's fat and plotting. He's a great basketball player.
Yep.
He's a great basketball player. But you're starting your franchise today with that. You know what that means? That means that there's a general manager on the Eastern Conference that never stayed up late enough to watch Wembanyama play.
Yeah.
Like, he can be the best defensive player in the NBA. He could be the best offensive player in the NBA in a number of years. Like, it blew my mind even reading that. Like, I read this survey. I didn't pay attention to the percentages because the names seemed right.
Yeah.
But then when I went back and read it again and brought it up to this podcast, I that just stood out to me. I'm like, How is that not like, I get SGA. I do. I get it. And if the Thunder voted for SGA and he had 3%, that's cool. But SGA over Victor, that just seems outlandish to me.
Yeah. The thing is with Victor is he's already, if we're being honest, he probably should have won Depoy last year. He's the favorite for Depoy this year. He is probably going to average somewhere around the 25 to 28 points per game mark. What did he average last year? 22, 21, somewhere around there. I don't know how you go with anyone else. I'm right there with you. I don't, I listen to a lot of different media and a lot of different podcasts and a lot of different information. And I was listening to a specific podcast, and they were talking. It was a Dallas Mavericks based podcast, and I was listening to them talk about this specifically because I wanted to kind of get their take about Luka getting 3%. It's one GM, and with this survey too, by the way, GMs are not allowed to vote on their own players or teams. That's the rule. So someone else, not Dallas GM, ended up voting for Luka. They were so upset that only one person voted for Luka. You shouldn't be upset. I don't know. Like, Victor does everything on both sides of the court. He's 7'5". He does not. I heard it today. He has fictional height. The man should not exist. He should not be walking this earth. He's alien, and he does. And he's playing basketball, and he's dominating already. And I don't know why you would go any other direction. But I'm in the same boat as you. It is just kind of confusing. And again, same thing with Jokic. He's older, the age thing. He's not going to be on this list next year or anywhere close. So yeah, I'm right there with you.
Good.
I did feel like arguing today. Actually, you just scared me into being with you.